The AI crash, why the AI bubble is bursting, and why China wins. The greatest mirage of the 21st century. Look around you. Every news channel, every tech conference, every earnings call. The message is the same. Artificial intelligence is the future. It's the internet on steroids. It's the revolution that will solve everything. And if you look at the stock market, specifically here in the United States, you'd believe that wealth is being generated out of thin air. But history tells a different story. History tells us that when valuation detaches from reality, gravity always wins. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are having a difficult conversation. We are going to dissect the AI bubble that has inflated the U.S. economy to record highs. We aren't just talking about a market correction. We are talking about a structural fragility that, when it snaps, could trigger a depression worse than 2008. And here is the twist that most Western analysts are ignoring. While the U.S. braces for the impact of this burst, China, despite its own economic hurdles, is positioned to weather this specific storm with significantly less damage. Why is the American AI dream turning into a nightmare? And how did the East prepare for a future the West is currently gambling on? Let's dive in. The ROI void. Money in versus money out. To understand why this is a bubble, you have to follow the money, specifically the capital expenditure or CapEx. In the last 24 months, the Magnificent Seven tech companies in the U.S. have spent hundreds of billions of dollars on AI infrastructure. They are buying GPUs, building data centers, and hoarding energy contracts. NVIDIA's valuation alone surpassed the GDP of most nations. But here is the critical question. Where is the return on investment? Sequoia Capital, one of the world's most prestigious venture capital firms, recently released a report titled The $600 Billion Question. They noted that while tech giants are spending $600 billion on AI infrastructure, the industry is generating only a fraction of that in actual revenue. We are seeing a massive disconnect. In the dot-com bubble, companies had no revenue, but they were building fiber optic cables that we actually use today. In the AI bubble, companies are spending billions on compute power that is sitting idle or being used to generate chatbots that people are already losing interest in. The enterprise adoption is slowing. Companies tried to integrate AI, realized it hallucinates, realized it costs a fortune to run, and realized it doesn't actually replace high-level decision-making yet. When earnings season comes and these tech giants admit that their AI divisions are bleeding cash rather than printing it, the confidence will shatter. And because the S&P 500 is more concentrated in tech than at any point in history, when tech sneezes, the entire U.S. economy catches pneumonia. This isn't just a sector correction, it's a valuation crisis. When the P/E ratios compress, trillions of dollars in wealth evaporate. And that wealth isn't just held by billionaires, it's in your 401k, your pension fund, and your university endowment. The physical wall, energy, and infrastructure. But let's say for a moment that the software works. Let's say the revenue eventually comes. There is a second, harder wall that the U.S. AI bubble is crashing into right now, the physical wall. AI is not magic. It is electricity. It is heat. It is hardware. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, has admitted that the energy requirements for the next generation of models are staggering. We are talking about gigawatts of power. The U.S. power grid is aging, fragmented, and already struggling to meet current demand. Building a new power plant takes a decade. Building a data center takes 2 years. We have a mismatch in timelines. Tech companies are promising exponential growth in AI capability, but the physical infrastructure to support it simply does not exist in the United States. We are already seeing data center projects in Virginia and California being paused because the local utility companies cannot guarantee power. This creates a supply chain bottleneck. If you cannot power the chips are useless, and if the chips are useless, the valuation of the companies holding them collapses. Furthermore, consider the hardware supply chain. The U.S. has placed sanctions on China to restrict their access to high-end semiconductors, but in doing so, they have created an artificial scarcity that inflated prices. Once the market realizes that the high-end chips are overpowered for the actual tasks being performed, the demand for $30,000 GPUs will plummet. We are building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. The energy isn't there, the grid isn't there, and the ROI isn't there. When these three realities converge, the burst won't be a slow leak, it will be a pop. The domino effect. Why this leads to depression. Now, you might be thinking, okay, tech stocks go down, so what? I don't work at Google. This is where the danger of a historical depression comes into play. The U.S. economy of 2000 is not the U.S. economy of 2024. In 2000, the U.S. had a budget surplus, interest rates were higher, the manufacturing base was larger. Today, the U.S. is carrying over $34 trillion in national debt. Interest rates have been kept artificially low for a decade and now are volatile. Consumer credit card debt is at an all-time high. Here is the chain reaction. Step 1, AI valuations crash. Step 2, venture capital firms, which are heavily leveraged into AI startups, become insolvent. Step 3, regional banks, which hold the debt for these commercial real estate data centers and tech loans, face a liquidity crisis. Remember 2023? Silicon Valley Bank was just a preview. Step 4 is the human cost. The narrative of AI was that it would increase productivity. The reality of the burst is that it will cause mass layoffs before the productivity is ever realized. Companies are already hiring fewer junior developers and copywriters in anticipation of AI. If the bubble bursts, those companies don't just stop hiring, they downsize to survive. When wealth evaporates from the stock market, consumer spending stops. Consumer spending is 70% of the U.S. GDP. If the consumer stops spending, the recession becomes a depression. Unlike 2008, where the problem was housing, this crisis is tied to the very engine of U.S. growth, technology. If the engine fails, there is no backup. The U.S. has deindustrialized. We don't make things, we make valuations. And when valuations correct to reality, the standard of living corrects with them. This is why economists are whispering about a lost decade for the United States, a period of stagflation where debt is high, growth is low, and the currency weakens. Now, let's look east. This is the part that makes Western analysts uncomfortable. China is not immune to economic pain. They have a property crisis, they have demographic issues, but in terms of the AI bubble specifically, they are insulated. Why? Because China's approach to technology is fundamentally different from the U.S. approach. In the U.S., AI is driven by Wall Street quarterly earnings. It is driven by hype, stock buybacks, and speculative equity. It is short-termism. In China, AI and advanced technology is driven by state planning. It is integrated into the real economy. They aren't building AI primarily to make chatbots for consumers. They are building AI to optimize manufacturing, to run autonomous ports, to manage energy grids, and to control logistics. China's exposure to the AI financial bubble is low. Their tech companies are not publicly traded on global markets in the same way that US's are. Their capital is state-directed. If an AI project doesn't show immediate profit, the state can sustain it because it serves a strategic industrial purpose, not a shareholder dividend purpose. And China is the world's factory. If the US AI bubble bursts, the demand for high-end software might crash, but the demand for physical goods will remain. China controls the supply chain for the green energy transition, solar, batteries, EVs. While the U.S. is fighting over who has the best large language model, China is securing the lithium, the cobalt, and the refining capacity needed to power the future.
If the U.S. enters a depression caused by a financial asset crash, the dollar will weaken. China, which holds massive reserves of hard assets and commodities, will see its relative power increase. They are playing a game of Go. The U.S. is playing a game of poker. The U.S. is bluffing with chips they don't have. China is slowly surrounding the board. This isn't about politics, it's about economics. It's about the difference between building wealth on paper versus building wealth on production. As we move forward, keep your eyes open. Watch the earnings reports, watch the energy grids, and understand that when the music stops, the U.S. has far fewer chairs than people think. If you found this analysis valuable, please like and subscribe. We need to have more honest conversations about our economic future. Let me know in the comments, do you think AI is a revolution or a bubble?
I'll see you in the next one.